Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to talk about this 1993 Gibson Hog Top 56 reissue guitar. I bought this one during a guitar hunting episode because I was really curious if this was truly a custom shop guitar or a prehistoric. But first, let's talk about 1956 reissues. Typically, a 1956 Les Paul looks like this. It's got a gold top finish, you have dual P90 pickups with the then new ABR1 bridge and stop bar tailpiece. But the one spec that a lot of people don't think about is it has a maple top underneath the golden finish. That was the biggest difference between a custom and a gold top at that time. The customs had a all mahogany body with no maple cap. So why does this reissue then have a mahogany top on it for? Well, while not being a traditional spec, there were a few of them built in the 50s like this. But besides being more rare, it's not quite as a desirable feature because people want the maple top on these guys. The Vintage Guitar Magazine price guide actually puts those gold tops at about 10% less in value as compared to the maple topped version. So this is just kind of a reissue of an obscure guitar that not everybody even knows about, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at this ribbon mahogany top here. It moves the same way like a flame maple one does, but kind of in the opposite direction. But the other reason why I wanted to check this one out was specifically for the year it was made. 1993 is when the Gibson Custom Shop officially opened. So that means you can technically find prehistorics in 1993 as well as historic custom shop reissues. And they can both have this custom shop edition decal on the back of them. Because this little thing started in late 1982, and Gibson used them to signify limited edition runs of guitars. They were still made on the same production line as everything else. The custom shop was not a separate division at that time. People get confused about that all the time and call these things custom shops when they're not actually custom shops. And it was in 1983 when the prehistoric era was birthed. That's when Gibson finally started doing official Les Paul reissues. Now, there were a few before that were limited edition dealer runs. There's also things like the Les Paul KM when they were trying, keyword trying, to do reissue guitars. But it's 1983 when they officially started doing that. You can check out this video to learn all about those. I actually owned the very first one that was ever made. So now the big question that everybody wants to know about this one. What is this thing? Is it a custom shop or is it a prehistoric? Well, at first when I picked this thing up out of the case and felt it, it felt like a custom shop guitar. But then I opened it up and got a whole new surprise. So to best explain this one to you guys, let's go ahead and throw it on the workbench and take a look at its individual parts and specs. It's the moment of truth. What is this hog top beauty? Is it prehistoric or is it custom shop? When I first lifted this pickup up, my heart sank. It's a short neck tenon. But then I saw this. It's Tom Murphy. So that means Murphy painted this guitar. Now, yeah, it's not one of his spectacular burst paint jobs from 1993 or 94 that sell for ridiculous sums of money, but hey, a Tom Murphy painted guitar when I did not buy it as a Murphy painted guitar is a welcomed addition. So if you don't know who Murphy is, he worked at Gibson from 1989 through 1994, and he's worked with them on and off throughout the years. I mean, just now in 2020, they're launching the Murphy Labs division. But he's basically the master guy that can age guitars, and he does a mean paint job on a burst. So since this has the short neck tenon, it's technically a prehistoric Les Paul. And remember, I said only the late 1993s are custom shops, so we can actually look at the pot codes later on to further verify that. But what I found really interesting here is most P90s do not do this. These actually have like a metal bushing inside of them for the screws to go inside. But the thing that confuses me even more, underneath Tom Murphy right there, it says LPCS. The only thing that would make sense is Les Paul Custom Shop. So maybe this one was made ridiculously close to when the custom shop opened. But here we can see the mahogany top that they put on here. It's not just maple that was stained or anything, because I don't think I've ever seen maple that looks like this. That's definitely a mahogany top. And I just love the top carve to this thing. It's got such a huge belly on it. It reflects light beautifully. But the pickups themselves are just regular P90s. They're not P100s or anything stacked on top of each other, so that'll be a very traditional sound. And inside here you can see your typical mark, the UC452B. And we've got a similar thing going on with the bridge pickup. Our pickup readings here are 8.26 in the bridge position, with the middle for fun is about 5, so that probably means, whoa. Is everything right there? That's crazy. 12.86. Okay, so I guess our neck pickup is super hot in comparison to everything else. But then I found some more writing in here, which was kind of interesting. Now, unfortunately, there's like paint or something over top of it, so it's really hard to make out. But my best guess is translucent or transparent amber, because amber is about the only thing that I can make out, and transparent or translucent is about the only thing that would make sense to go with amber. And they would put the color in the bridge pickup cavity on these sometimes. So I guess it's not necessarily a super natural finish. There's a little bit of ambering going on here directly from the factory. And you can actually see that on the binding. This would have been crisp white when they put it on, but it's the finish that they put over top of it that's kind of made it slightly yellow. And since it's from 1993, yeah, it's aged a little bit naturally as well. But as far as the bridge goes, we have an ABR1 style. This pretty much looks the same from like a 70s model into the 80s. People will sell them as the same all the time, so it's definitely from the prehistoric era. It doesn't just say ABR1 on the bottom like the newer ones will. And it is drilled directly into the top, but what somebody's done, or maybe even the factory did, they added a second set of thumb wheels right there. Now, why would somebody do that, you ask? It's because it prevents post-lean. So it's kind of a nice preventative measure right there, so I'll leave them be. They're actually slightly smaller than the top ones. The next thing that let me know we were dealing with a non-custom shop guitar is this is not a lightweight tailpiece, it's full weight. But we do have the cool amber switch tip with the poker chip that's cream, and you've got the golden bell knobs with the thumb bleeder pointers on them. And just for fun, here's the pick guard, which honestly, I think this thing looks pretty cool without one too, but pick guard on, pick guard off, I think it looks good either way on this one. So we've got the hog top, hog body, hog neck, well, rosewood fretboard. Wouldn't that be cool if they did one with a mahogany fretboard? Or maybe there's a reason they don't do that. So you get a 22 fret thing here. It's just a regular Les Paul standard in that aspect. But the early custom shops actually got what they consider the Les Paul classic inlays. That's why they look a little bit green. It's just kind of something that they did at this point in time. And you're going to notice that this fretboard, it's really hard to see this in person. Like, it doesn't jump out as much as it does in photos, but half the board is light, half the board is dark, and I dig that. That's really cool about this guitar. But you will see it does have a little bit of wear. There's like a small impression right there where the string must have got it at one point in time. But the frets themselves, while showing some wear, it's not too crazy. As far as neck specs go, we get 1.68 inches at the nut, and moving on to the 12th here, it's fairly standard 2.06. First fret neck depth, this is where this is going to differ from most, 0.82. This is like a ridiculously thin neck. I would guess like 0.85. Yeah, 0.89. Very, very thin. This neck reminds me of an SG. It's got that really thin but wide feeling to it. So if you like SGs and you've always wanted a Les Paul with an SG neck, this is the guitar for you. And now in retrospect, looking at the truss rod cover, I probably could have told you this was a prehistoric, because they start doing the historic truss rod cover, which looks a little bit different. But the face of this headstock, definitely very early 90s custom shop, almost time to be custom shop logos. And there you can see the mahogany neck as well as the truss rod should you need to use it. Moving on to the backside now, beautiful wood grain back here too. So you got like the two best kinds of mahogany on this thing. The ribbon mahogany on the top and the nice dense ringy kind on the back. It's just gorgeous. Pretty much the largest area of wear on this guitar is right there. There's a ding, but this is what we really want to look at. We've got the ceramic disc capacitors. That also tells us this is a prehistoric era guitar. Then we've got the pot code, which in this case tells us it's from 1993, the third week. The custom shop didn't open until late 1993, so that definitely tells us this is like when they were really thinking about it, but not necessarily there yet. There's a few other markings in here that looks like maybe a KS. Looks like it maybe says 848, and then there's a 5 right there. Then you've got some scribbling right here. And nothing too crazy here in the toggle switch cavity. And going around the sides here, we still have the historically correct plastic output jack. It's got some light cracking to it, but that's kind of why they replaced them with metal ones later on. And we've got the vintage style strap buttons there, as well as in the other usual location. And the back plates themselves, nothing too fancy going on here. This is the first time I'm realizing this. I'm so used to saying it's the maple top that's exposed, but this time it's the mahogany top. Cool. So it does have the thin binding in the cutaway as the historics would, as well as the prehistorics of the time. You just have a nice thin neck profile shape right here with a bunch of nice wood grain. And now I can confidently answer this question. This was just a limited edition run of a prehistoric. It does not actually mean it was made in the separate custom shop division. So I guess that raises the question, is this guitar worth more as a prehistoric, or would it have been better if it was a historic? Well, it would have been worth more if it was a historic. But I'm a huge fan of these prehistorics, and I am plenty happy with what I got. It was way more special than I could have ever imagined while we were hunting for it on Reverb. Another thing that could have tipped me off to this being prehistoric is they changed the font of the numbers. Since these are large, it would either be a Les Paul Classic or a prehistoric reissue, because they start getting really small and then they switch over the serializations. And we've got the Gibson Custom Deluxe tuners here. Fully assembled, this one weighs 9 pounds, 11.7 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how she sounds. We know all about this beautiful Hogtop R6. What are my final thoughts on this thing? I dig the prehistorics, so for me, it being a prehistoric makes me very happy. However, that still means I need to find a first-year custom shop guitar to review and demo, so I'm a little bit sad that this wasn't that one, but honestly, I wanted to have humbuckers anyways, despite the P90s being awesome. And speaking of awesome pickups, this guitar, despite being special historically, it is also one of the special ones to play. I've kind of been in a rut with my playing lately, not really enjoying doing the playing demos, but this guitar quickly got me back to having fun. It's like, yes! At first, I was a little bit thrown off by this neck profile. Like when I first picked it up out of the case, it's really SG thin, but slightly more rounded than most 61 reissue SGs. But once I actually started playing it, the neck was super comfortable. I really enjoyed that. And most R6s have pretty beefy necks on them. They're not quite baseball bats, but this is definitely the exact opposite of what I would normally think. But the pickups themselves, geez, this neck pickup, beautiful. I have no idea why it's twice as hot as the bridge, but it sounds fantastic on cleans. And even on the dirty channel, it's still got this nice, full, fat, juicy tone to it. Now the bridge, I'm a little bit less happy with. On the clean settings, I just found it to be a little bit weak. I would almost prefer it to be hotter like the neck pickup. However, it was still nice. It was just a little bit thinner. It could be useful in certain situations. But once you throw in the overdrive, yes, that's when this bridge pickup truly shines. It's just a fantastic guitar. I would highly recommend one of these. I definitely have no regrets buying this guitar. It was way more beautiful than I ever thought. Hey, we even found Tom Murphy inside of this guitar, and it's just a cool little historic piece. So if you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this one, let's go ahead and review its condition now. I would give this a pretty solid 9 out of 10. For the most part, it does look really clean. Like, you have minimal scratching to the face of the headstock, just a little bit of ambering to the lacquer. But one small thing I noticed up here is you can see the veneer is like slightly lifting in one area. It's just right here. Like, it's not going to come off on you. You can just see that the finish has started to crack a little bit right there. And you also have a very minuscule ding right here. So it was knocked up against something at one point in time, but no breaks, cracks, or repairs, thankfully. This thing stays in tune like a champ. I put some graphite in the nut so you're good there. Wrap the strings the way that they're supposed to be. I had a great time playing and bending away on this one. The frets show very minor wear, hardly any at all, but there's just a little bit. You're not going to have to worry about it anytime soon though, and you do have those slightly darker colored inlays on this one. As far as the face of the guitar goes, sure, you got some picking scratches and whatnot, but it pretty much gets hidden by all this beautiful mahogany wood grain. But we'll just kind of run the light over here so you can kind of see what we're talking about. I did not notice any huge nicks or dings, but you might find a few very small ones. But again, just look at this beautiful mahogany top. I've not seen one quite be this spectacular before. So that's the Tom Murphy touch right there, I think, especially with that deep dish carve. And you can see that there is a little bit of wear to the tailpiece. It looks like there's just fingerprints on it, but they do not polish off. You got some very light internal cracking to the plastic knobs. Very common. You also got the cracking pretty much on all the plastics everywhere on this thing. Backside of the headstock, serial number 30886, Custom Shop Limited Edition. It appears that they've done a few of these runs, but this one being 1993 and still having the Custom Shop Edition decal makes it a little bit more special. I had a small mishap with this guitar while filming the B-roll. Here's a reenactment of what happened. I had the lights off doing that really cool B-roll shot, and I guess I had it sitting on the stand like this, and I didn't know it. And then that got bumped somehow, and then it fell. And luckily, the headstock was off the edge of here, so it didn't actually come down to anything. But it did go boom, boom twice, and that's what caused those two little dings there. So we got lucky there. Then you also have this thin neck to look forward to. Or, if you don't like thin necks, avoid this one. Find a different one that has a bigger neck. But that's definitely not a spec you find all the time. And then as we were seeing on the workbench, there is that one giant ding on the back here. It's right here. I mean, is it too bad? No, but it is there. But I doubt anybody's really going to have any issues with the condition on this one. We'll run around the edges. You just have a few light nicks or dings, some light scratches. This one's definitely in pretty good shape. If you don't mind some polishing marks and whatnot, you could definitely get this thing buffed out to make it look brand new. But, you know, as it sits now, it's not half bad either. Whoa! Under black light, this thing looks awesome. So maybe it was displayed in a case or something where it caught a bunch of sun and that helped darken up the binding and the rest of the finish. But yeah, you can definitely tell those are the old style prehistoric knobs right there by the way they glow. The plastics glow the way I would expect to see. Everything's looking good here on the front. We'll move on up to the face of the headstock as well. Everything's looking clean here. As is the back of the headstock. No breaks, cracks, or repairs to report. This is one of the nicest looking blacklight guitars I've done in a while. Super bright, nothing, you know, hidden. It's just all fun and games for this one. And we'll just do a quick look around the edges here. This definitely is a super nice example. This particular one does come in its original Gibson USA style case. It's in 1994 when they bring out that lift and reissue style, so this still is technically correct for it. So we've got one latch here, there, and on the back, as well as a locking combo lock that has never been set. And inside here, we've got the pink interior with case shroud still attached. It looks like somebody might have reattached this. I don't know how long that's going to last. But the other two are still perfectly secure, so you're good there. You've got the good heel support, double neck rest. I'm not a fan of the headstock wedge, but it's there. So it's a very nice condition case. It doesn't seem to have been used too much. But inside here sleeps more mystery. So it's got some case candy that says Gibson Custom Art Historic. And I think that's what confused the dealer that sold it to me. And I'm guessing that this might have just sat around a while in the store, longer to sell, and then for some reason this just got thrown in, or somebody bought this case candy on eBay and threw it in just to kind of confuse someone. Or who knows, maybe this did come out of their official custom shop and it just has a short neck tenon because there's like a small run in the beginning I'm not familiar with. But none of this stuff was actually filled out, so we can't say it's necessarily original to this guitar, but it's definitely cool to have this case candy. I have never actually seen this one before. We'll just go through it here real quick. It basically just goes through Gibson's history and talks about the new custom shop stuff. So this was definitely like on the brink of all this happening. I don't even believe this place is even open anymore. They shut it down. Here's the Gibson Montana Master Built series and the Epiphone and stuff like that. So this was definitely, you know, on the brink of things changing, and it's just kind of a cool piece of history here. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this prehistoric R6 with a mahogany top, feel free to check out that link in the description, which will take you to the Reverb for sale page. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.